How are you? How are you, Tracy?
Oh my gosh, I am so well. This is always my favorite time of the week when we get to have these conversations. So, just
Yes.
inherently in the fact that we're in that time now, I'm doing really, really well. It's been a good week. What about you?
It's been a great week. Been doing landscaping, um, meeting with clients. It's been a good week. But as I was saying, as you said, this is your, kind of a high for you. Just as before we hit the live button, my heart was fluttering, going pa, 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 pa. And for me, my heart fluttering, where other people it tends to look like I am fearful, but it's not. It's just me
Mhm.
being alive and butterflies, and I am going to be pushing on all cylinders, all 12, because I'm a V12, I think, or a V16 maybe, not a V4 or V6.
One of the other bees, right? Yeah.
There you go, but everything is well. Everything is well. Highlight of your, I know this is your highlight, this is mine,
This
but
is my highlight.
other highlights that you have care to share?
So I have an interest. So, okay, I think I talked to you about this before. I don't know if we've talked about this in these conversations, but
Hmm.
I was approached the end of last year by a gentleman who works for a company, and it's kind of a cool concept. They use public crowdfunding to help authors get in front of publishers.
Okay.
All right. So, but it's more concept publishing. So, there's different ways to get a book, to print. You can either be an author who has a book and you self-publish, or you go looking for a publisher, or you have these concept, books where, you've got the idea, the book's not written, and
Hmm.
you go, either to look for a publisher, or I guess that would be the way to go, looking for a publisher.
Gotcha.
And that's what they do. So they're kind of a matchmaker between authors and publishers. And so he reached out to me and he says, have you ever thought about writing a book? I'm like, well, I've been asked a number of times, if I have a book, am I going to write a book? And I said, I had kind of been in this place that I'm realizing it has a larger, it's a larger impact for me than just the book piece. But as this concept of, oh, I'm not going to do it just because it's expected of me. Like
Mm,
I've always been that kind of person. Like I'm not going to do it just because it's going to give me a title or people will take me more seriously. Or that's
gotcha.
for me not a reason to write a book. And so I kind of was a little hesitant, put him off. I was just like, well, if you want to get back to me, whatever. And he did just right after COVID hit.
Hmm.
He reached back out and he says, we have a contest that we're running, and what we look at, part of what we do is we look at what readership is looking for currently out there, right, in the
Hmm.
world. They're looking for books about whatever. And he said, the current feedback is that people are looking for books about how to get through uncertain times. He says, there's not a lot out there for that. There's the self-help, how to get right with yourself, all that, but it doesn't speak specifically to where we're at right now in time.
Gotcha.
And he said, the best we can do now is go to those autobiographies, biographies, that kind of thing, of leadership during hard times, ex-presidents that were good, that type of thing. But in general, how does a person, right, get themselves in that position, not just the concept of needing to do, but how to.
Gotcha.
And that struck a chord with me. It suddenly it was like, okay, this isn't just a concept of writing a book, because I never felt, to me, I don't know, and this is just for me, I'm certainly not placing this on anybody else that decides to put a book out there, but it just felt very egoic
Gotcha.
and like, oh, I have something to say, here's my book. It didn't resonate with me, but this did, because this is what I teach all the time, and I'm like, it's a message, it's timely, and if people are looking for it, then that means it could be valuable. And
Gotcha.
so my why, it was a why that resonated. Like I said, I keep using the word resonate, but it was a why that spoke to me.
Okay.
And so I said, yeah. So I'm currently getting ready to push the launch button on it. I made the profile, did the pitch video, all that stuff. It's all there in their system, ready to just hit launch. But
Wow.
when I hit
Wow.
launch, I have 30 days to publicly fund it. right? Which basically means the more I pre-sell, the better it looks to publishers, right? And
Okay.
so I am, and Wulwyn, I'm realizing how much I don't like, as much as I'm a speaker and all, I do not like to be in front of people. Especially when I'm selling my wares. I'm like talking to the guy who's helping me with this, because you get matched up with an agent, and
Uh-huh.
he's like, you've got everything you need. I'm like, I don't know how to do. He's like, just be you, just speak.
Yes.
I'm like, well, I know how to do that, but I don't know how to sell myself.
You know, great story. And on you can talk in front of people, but you don't like it, or planning it. I I don't know if this is similar. I've been I've been studying and it's just the matter of resources, in line with resources. See, God has given us unlimited resources. So you have the resource of speech. You have the resource of writing. This person is coming and telling you, hey, you can write this, you can do this. We 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 tend to take our binoculars and look out there and say, wow, look at Oprah's doing it, or look at this person, just whomever, Tim Robbins, um, Chopra, all of these people are doing it, but we never take the binoculars and switch it back and say, let me see what I'm doing, what I'm capable of doing, because we have so much within us that when we start to mine it, the unbelievable results, the unbelievable output. And this came from I was looking at uh there's this Bible story with the widow, and I think it was Elijah, who she came and there was oil that she had to pour, and he said, bring all the containers that you have and just bring as many as you have, and I'll keep pouring. And reached to the last container and it stopped, right? Reached to the last container and it stopped. And I was praying here, and the Holy Spirit said, do you know that if she had containers now, if she still had containers given and putting it in front of me, I would still be pouring it out. I would be pouring it out today, right? Because we have so much, and God has given us these resources. I tell you that we have, but we tend to not want to dig deep or say, you know what, that's not me, that's not me. And there you go. You're about to have author to the name. And then there are so many other things that will come out of this that you would look like, wow, you mean I've been sitting on this for so long and I could have done this, right? So
Totally. I mean, I have to give myself credit for being willing to say, okay, I'll do it. I'll try it. I mean, it when things come to me and it logically makes sense. When he said readership is looking for this kind of thing, and I thought, this is exactly what I do every day. This is exactly the lens I look into the world.
mm-hmm.
For me, it is like God saying, you're getting called. I brought this person to you. Here you go. Please say
Yes.
yes. Because and that's why that's why I did. But I think also too, what I recognize is, and I've been saying this to people, because it wasn't like, oh, I have this burning message in the sense of people need to hear what I have to say as my why. I'm just going through this as an experience. If the book if publishers don't find an interest in it, I'm okay for the experience, right? I'm completely detached from the outcome. I know that it will be good, whatever it is, even if it is just an experience of me learning how to promote and, to your point, say yes to the gifts I've been graced with, in a public way. Because I mean,
Right.
I traditionally have, it goes way back to when I was in middle school, have a hard time showing up like where I'm in the spotlight. I'm okay if I'm delivering someone else's information, or that's why I'm okay as a speaker, because I'm delivering something that I know is valuable and I've been asked to do it.
Correct.
but when I, show up in such a way, people are like, you there, your stage, get up there and talk. I'm just like, because to me, it's about me. And that's where, instead of my message or my gifts or whatever, and that's where I struggle. But both what I'm hearing from you and what I heard also from this agent, he said, it's the same. You are your gifts. This is what you teach. And I think it's so funny how the very thing that I talk about all the time is being turned on me right now.
Yes.
Is being, and I'm realizing just what we need most. We always do what we need most, right? Always. And so I'm like, oh, this is a humbling moment where, I talk to my clients every day about this, and this is coming up for me big time. And I'm being super vulnerable talking about this because I'm also an incredibly private person. Katya, our friend Katya, who I was talking to yesterday, something she said to me, I can't remember if it was part of the live conversation or if it was off camera, but she said, I think it was off camera. She said, you get to show up and people get to see you. She says, that's what people want. Followers want to know what you eat for breakfast. They want to know, they want to have pictures of, you with your family. And it is really challenging me because I have been raised so privately. I have just so accustomed to not even thinking that not like I'm trying to hide, but like, why is this important to other people? Like, people want to see what I'm having for breakfast. Like, why? So
there's a thin line between that and what we'll talk about narcissism, right? There's a thin line. However, there is the marketplace right now is looking for authentic. So you can have the person who's doing it just because they want to. They're
here I am with my morning coffee.
There you go. There's the person who stages it to the T, right? That comes in and they know what they're doing in terms of, I'm going to finesse this marketplace. Then there's the authentic person who's doing it, who's saying, I want to do it this way, even though it's you're not sharing your food. You're saying, eat well. You're not showing, this is what I'm eating, right? It's like, try to eat well, try to exercise. These are things that I do in order for me to be present. These are the back office processes that go on before I get out and you see me performing and doing it. So it's like, it's seeing Michael Jordan I would watch, basketball fan here, I would watch Michael Jordan play, or these basketball players, the great ones, watch them play, but I never saw them work. When I say work on their game. And then
it looked very glamorous and easy.
Correct. So Come Fly With Me came out, I think it was 87, 88, 89. It was showing Michael Jordan what he did in the background. And when I saw it and it uncovered the sleepless days, the repetition of fundamentals, the understanding what it took to get to this place. I think this is what's missing out there in social media now. Everybody's seeing that, just what you said, turning around and showing the coffee cup and putting the pinky up, right? It's more of teaching and knowing you, and knowing myself. I am going to engage based on, let me teach you how to fish, rather than giving you the fish. Because the other people who are coming on with finessing the marketplace, man, they're giving people fish so they can come back to eat more. But we want to uplift. And it's, hey, in order to do this, here's what we have to do. And I'm going to say this right now. This thing that you're seeing, that you're watching, you're liking, and you're saying, This is us having our conversations every 2 weeks. And at the end of one, we went, hey, why don't we just go live and talk? And here it is, we're to what, episode 4 now? In episode 4, and people are coming saying, hey man, we don't like what you guys are doing. So things that you are doing, things that you have within your toolbox, take that, not market it, but take it and show it to the world. Because there are people out there who are looking, saying, if I could only have this, and you could be that thing to that person that would show them this is how you do it, and they can go on to create paths, you know.
I need so much to hear this right now, which I think most people who watch me from the outside are going to be probably shocked to hear me saying this, because I am probably the worst when it comes to the very Kool-Aid that I'm, helping other people with.
Yep.
So I'm going to do a bit of a shout out. I have a good friend, Colin Stevens, who I met on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And he is just such a cool guy. He was one of those kind of rogue LinkedIners, where I'm like, wow, he's putting some really different stuff out there. And
Gotcha.
he and I had a conversation yesterday, and we were talking about the concept of holding space. And it's the same thing as what you're just talking about, is teaching a man to fish instead of giving him a fish.
Mm-hmm.
He was explaining that, one of the things he's been called to, I mean, this is a guy who, speaker, writer, he's working on a book himself, and he's being called to do tarot readings now. And he said, this is not something that, I mean, it's a calling, it's this thing that has kind of come up in him, an ability to see people on a different level. And I said, I can resonate with that. Early on in my coaching career, I realized I could hear people, I could see people through hearing their patterns. Mm-hmm. And I recognized that there was a lot I could see, and yet I knew I wasn't supposed to just tell them, just say, oh, here, this is your future. This is who you are and how you operate, and how the light and the life that is going to unfold for you is going to look. Yes. I was very aware that I wasn't meant to just tell them what I saw, because that's not my place. It's very irreverent. First of all, it's their life and they have free will.
Correct.
And no matter what we see, even if it's spot on, it's not for me to just tell. It's literally for me to hold space, because what I see is their potential, right? It's potentiation. It hasn't become yet. And so there's so many things that could change that outcome. And so for me to just like, oh, this is how it's going to look, or this is how it looks, isn't the right thing. But then how do I hold space for them to find that potential themselves? That's what I've had to hone and learn in my coaching, is, again, not to give them that fish, not to just give them what I see, but to create an environment within which they can discover themselves and their truest gifts and potential. And so I'm being now given a stage for that. And I have so much trepidation, more so than I even expected, and all sorts of things are coming up, with me around, I had to do this pitch video, right, for this book. Mm-hmm. And I go back and I'm looking at the pitch video. I'm like, God, I look old. Jeez, look at the lines. And my husband, who's helping me put it together, is like, I don't think anybody cares about the lines in your face, Traci. Like, it's really about your message, and, but I'm like, God, I guess I'm not used to seeing me on camera, and, and there is that piece, especially as women, but I think men too, but of image and how we're supposed to look and how we're supposed to behave based on what people will like and what they will buy based on how we look, and all this stuff that we're so conditioned that I found myself, and I think that's a big piece of it too, showing up. It's like, I'm an older coach with a lot of young coaches hitting the scene. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm coming up on my mid-50s, and it doesn't mean I'm old, and it doesn't mean we could say coaches, the older you are, the more wisdom and experience you have, but also for a face value type of thing, mm-hmm. Looks do sell, or they have traditionally. And so where does that authenticism, as well as, how we want to brand our image, that kind of thing, come in? But I guess what I'm saying is I didn't realize how much I would be feeling about this, right? Like, just, I'm just like, I'll just do it. It'll be a good experience, all that. And then there's all this emotion around it. There's all of this, I'm feeling internal kickback, yes. Having these little mini dialogues with myself. You know, when my agent first was like, oh, we need these things, I sent this long email like what I couldn't do. There's so many, I haven't been to, and then I just sat down after sending this big, you know, email about what I couldn't do, and I just did it. I'm
Yes.
like, look at me.
Yes.
I'm doing the exact same things as a lot of my clients, and I'm honoring that. I'm honoring my imperfections. I'm honoring
Mm,
my process,
mm,
and yet I'm also very aware of it,
mm.
and how it's affecting different aspects of my experience with it. So it's been interesting, and it's only going to get more interesting because as soon as I launch, I have 30 days to sell
Right.
this book. That
So
will be a whole different experience.
it is, and you know what's unfolding. You know, I'm seeing how we are what's happening in these conversations. Someone explains something, and then the other person says what they said and push it to another level and teach the audience. This is what can happen in your situation, and this is where I come in now and say you've you've had the the push now to go to the next level. I had a friend. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she said, it's Rada Mills. She said, "Hey, I'm on a cliff. I'm on a cliff, and I'm on a cliff, but here I am. Somebody's telling me, get off the cliff, because you're gonna drop." She says, "How sure are you I'm gonna drop? I'm gonna fly. I'm on a cliff to fly. When I leap off here, I am flying. I'm not dropping. I'm flying." So we have these things in us. We have and I want to tell a quick story about there's a lady in California that I met who met me on my cliff and just pushed me and where I thought I would be flailing and wings all flapping, falling. I just picked up and was, oh my goodness, is this what it feels like to put my picture on my website? Is this what it feels like for me to do this? Norma Tyree, right? Norma was a godsend, and she asked me a question in one of our every Friday meetings we used to have, and she said, Wulwyn, why isn't your picture on the um your website? And I said to myself, well, none. She said, no, there's a reason why. I'm like, no, I had the funny face going. And then all of a sudden, I just started to cry. Ooh, and I'm like, and I'm a quick crier too, right? She says, what's happening? I go, um, I understand why I don't have my picture on there. My picture isn't on there because growing up, I wanted to play in the NBA. It was my dream, and I worked at it, Traci. I worked and worked. I worked. Oh my goodness, I worked at it. And the fact that when I came here, I didn't even touch a college court. And the options were there to touch it. I got a scholarship to go to Pfeiffer. But at the time, I said, you know what? I want my education, and I don't want basketball anymore. And it was so hard to make that decision. And I for quite a while, up till I was about 35, 40, I never watched the draft, the NBA draft. I would, man, I would watch basketball and be so critical and like, man, you put your foot, you didn't put your foot on the baseline. You call yourself a pro. You know when somebody's driving the baseline, put your foot on the baseline so they don't pass. Why are you letting the baseline go? And I didn't put my picture on because I said I failed. I did not. So I don't want to put the amount of hours, 10,000 plus hours I put in there, the amount of hours I put behind basketball, and the fact that I didn't get to my goal meant that I failed. So I'm not going to put my picture on something I'm going to put my hours in. And just in case it fails, my safety is I'm not going to put my picture on it. So when it fails, Wulwyn isn't seen. Now, how does that look like in our cases? We, and mind you, I did not fail. I learned how to be creative, how to read situations 2, 3 steps ahead playing basketball. I learned that I'm very competitive. I learned I love the challenge. I learned that I have to practice fundamentals. So everywhere in my life, I'm practicing fundamentals. I'm looking 2, 3 steps ahead as I'm running and moving towards whatever goal I'm going at. I can, and this may happen, that may happen, the other piece may happen. So I have to do these things just in case X happens. So I did not fail. But we tend to think that our we have our vision and our goals, and just what you're saying, Justin, man, I'm going for the experience, Wulwyn. If it fails, so what, or whatever. When we're doing these things that we have an end goal and we don't get to the end goal, for whatever matter that is, whatever reason, we take everything in a garbage bag and we dump it in the garbage. Whereas there are nuggets in there that God is teaching you so that when you go to the next level, you can then go and do it. I tell you this, Traci, you are going to succeed in this business, in this book that you're going to get. You are going to succeed. You know why you're going to succeed? You're going to succeed because you failed so many times and you know exactly how to move forward. You're going to succeed because you failed so many times, you know how to pivot. And you're going to succeed not because you know how to write or you have the right agent. You're going to succeed because you failed so many times and you didn't throw your failures and your lessons in the trash can. You picked them up and said, you know what? When I was leaving Europe, driving that car without gas, this happened. So you know what? When I'm doing this, I'm pretty sure the divine hand is going to come and correct me and put me to the right place. But what you can't do, Traci and all of us, myself and all those who are watching, we can't sit down and say, I'm not going to do it. That's where you fail.
That's it. Not doing it. Well, we can. That's the thing. We can choose to do that.
Correct.
We can
Correct.
choose not to do it. And I think at the same time, first of all, thank you. A lot of this is really touching me on a deep level, and this is a great learning opportunity for me, because I think one of the reasons I also have been so private is because I've been afraid to be vulnerable. Right, to the same point you made, not wanting to show up. I hear the commitment thing.
Yes.
When we don't show up on our website, we don't allow our image to show up on our website, or we don't allow our writings to show up in a book, or we don't allow, ourselves to show up on social media. The commitment that we're not making is to ourselves.
Correct.
Right, and it's not a lack of commitment to our work. It's a lack of commitment to ourselves. I mean, when I hear those stories of people, who say, oh, I have a business that it's 3 years old and it's not making the profit that I want, or that makes me feel like it's a success. What I always hear as the reasoning is lack of commitment in some way. Right? And they wouldn't think about it as lack of commitment. They may just say, oh, it's something I haven't really fully launched yet. It shows lack of commitment. True. And again, not commitment because they can't, and not commitment because they're lazy. Commitment because they're afraid. Right? And that's this whole thing, this fear. I mean, we've all been talking about, we're afraid of failure. And so we fear failure, and therefore we create failure through not committing, not going forward, not doing it, because of failure, right? And that's exactly how failure happens, not when we do stuff, but when we don't. And so I think and it's not even that failure is a bad thing, to your point that I'm hearing also. It teaches lessons always. It brings us, I think about, so you tell your story, like we have so much in common, it's so fabulous. You tell your story about basketball. I had the same thing with swimming. By the time I was 12, I was being asked to be on the junior Olympic team, or to try out for the junior Olympic team. I was the premier breaststroker on our team starting at the age of 6.
Wow. And
so I had extreme skill. And when my parents came to me at 12 and said, this is your decision, which thank God, how many kids that when parents have a kid that has that much talent and doesn't push make the decision for the kid at the age of 12.
Mm,
I'm so grateful to my parents for letting me be, the master of my own universe.
correct.
And I said no because I knew the amount of hours it had taken to get to that point. And you know what I said at the age of 12 to my parents? I said, I'm saying no to this because I know this will be the rest of my life and I want balance.
Wow.
I
Wow.
want balance. Do you know what the number one reason people come to me and hire me
Mm,
is? They want to create balance.
balance. Yep.
And I think that's the thing, is we're inherently following a course, if we listen, right, to ourselves, that we cannot fail. We
Mhm.
cannot. The only way we can fail is just to sit there and not do anything,
Correct.
right? To sit there and give in to our fears, to sit there and say, I can't, or I don't think I have the resources, or I can't see the way. I don't know what I don't know. And that scares me because I need certainty. I need to know what to expect. To sit there and be so in our minds and in this place of stuck,
Hmm.
that's the only way we can fail. And I really, I mean, I'm saying all of this as much to myself.
I know.
I
I
think
know.
that's why we talk, right? We talk out loud because we need to hear what we have to say for
Yes.
ourselves. And so I'm just really grateful to have this conversation, because it has been a very interesting mix of, cognitive awareness and deep emotional reaction, just in this last couple of weeks of deciding to do this pitch.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of interestingly watching myself, the scientist and the experiment in the cage,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, wow, that's interesting how that thing is affected in different ways.
Mm,
And it's been interesting, but to have this feeling of, reminder and support. We need two things to grow. We need challenge, which we have plenty of that. I have plenty of that in this case.
hmm.
But we need support as well to grow effectively. And I think one of my biggest fears is that I won't have that.
Mm, mm,
And yet, what I recognize is that the support first comes from within, right? First comes from our knowledge that we cannot fail unless we do nothing. And that I am on the path that is going to be the right one, regardless of how it looks, regardless of the twists and turns, regardless of whether something is a quote unquote success or a quote unquote failure in
correct.
the larger public eye perception. That I get to determine that. I get to say, I want balance in my life, or
Mhm.
I want this experience in my life, or I
Mm,
don't want this experience in my life.
mm.
So, yeah.
I I've been writing down here. So a couple things. When I think I told my brother that he saw me say something on live about the foreclosure, right? And he was like, "Man, you're gonna talk about that?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Man, you got a wide mouth." Um, and I since I was, I don't know, I there are no secrets per se in terms of my story, right? I just blurted out because I think it's based on what my dad told me. My dad told me, he said, son, when you have a sickness and you keep the sickness and you don't announce it to the town, you will die with your sickness. You will die in your sickness. He says, but here's what happens. He says, when you're sick and you go, hey, I have pneumonia, or I have this or that, there is somebody in your hearing who has the cure. And they will say, oh, you're sick? This is what you take. Take this. And as soon as you take it, you're well. People tend to think being vulnerable is a negative thing. And somebody has even told me that, oh man, you got to be vulnerable to certain people because if you give it to a certain people, they will disrespect it. But guess what? Even you disrespect it or respect it, That's my story. I respect my story. So you take it wherever way you want to take it. I'm standing on my story. So I announce it, and people hear it and go, oh man, I've been through that also. I've been through that. So how did you get out of it? How did you do it? And there you go, is how we teach. One. The second one was, you know, the salmon and the catfish. I heard this story. My wife told me she heard it from someone speaking, and I don't know, I may butcher it, but bear with me. They try to take the salmon from the ocean or wherever they get it from, and take it to the table. It's a long distance. So when they got it frozen, it wasn't tasty. They took it, brought it live, wasn't tasty. They started to think, what can we do? I think they put a catfish in it, in the tank with it. Got it to the table. This is tasty. So what happened? They saw that when they put the catfish in the tank, the salmon got agitated and scared, and there was anxiety in there. So the anxiety and fear drove the salmon taste to stay the same as it was in the ocean, so that when they did kill it and it ate it, it had even a better taste. Now, what does that say for us? We're salmons traveling from the ocean to where our destination is. If it's rosy and we're just rolling in it and there's no stops, no blocks, no anxiety. I don't want to call fear. I don't want us to say fear, because I'm not gonna live in that type of fear, right? Uh, you need all of these things in order for you to come out. So as you're going through your daily activities into your goals, and roadblocks come up, you're saying to yourself, oh, another roadblock. Nah, it's another tasty morsel that's going to be added to your mm, to just who you are, that when whatever comes out of you, that thing is going to be the best thing ever that someone has tasted. So I don't know why I'm coming back to you. I'm just seeing it. This book, after this book, there's another level that's coming. There's another huge thing that's gonna come that you're gonna say, no, not me, not me. But then the fighter in you is gonna be like, hey girl, that's you. Come on, let's go, do it, 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 do it. And you will do it because you have this body of work, which is coming to do this authorship, this authoring, that you will succeed at, right? And then it's going to go, because you can't stay on this level, because God has, you see, your full purpose, Traci, is not, it's not, it's not coaching. There's a bigger purpose that God has for Traci to do. That Traci is using coaching as a springboard that has put her to this level so that people can notice her. And then the next springboard is the book. But your call and your purpose is global. You know what I mean? There's something in you that the world needs to drink. There's something in you that the world needs to taste, but you have to go through these preps. You have to go through these roadblocks. You've got to have the catfish in your tank, so that when you come out, when you're delivering, it doesn't want you to go and deliver something that is subpar. It wants you to go and deliver something that is excellent, exceptional, because that's who you are. And I will drop my mic at this time to let you take the mic and talk.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, thank you. I'm very humbled by your commentary. And as you were talking, it made me think of a pattern that I've seen for so long. And that's what I call the reluctant speaker pattern. So years ago, when I had a group that I created in the area that I'm in, because when we first moved here, I realized, gosh, there's a lot of alternative practitioners, but there's no way to find them online or anywhere else. Like, how do you know these people other than word of mouth? And I thought, we need to bring the people to the practitioners and the practitioners to the people, because I mean, here where I live, I mean, you could throw a stone and hit like 10 of them. There's so many. But if you can't find them, you can't utilize them, right? And so I started by doing bi-monthly meetings where I would invite somebody to come and speak, share what they had to share, educate, let people know they were there, how to find them, all of this. And then it was free and people could come. And I tried to do it also in various cafes and restaurants and stuff so people could get through the doors. You know, some people say, oh, I've never been to this cafe. I've never been to this restaurant. So let's get some people in the doors of places locally that they've never been to. And so it was just this, you know, kind of desire to bring my community together in this holistic way. That what I found oftentimes would happen is the people I found fascinating. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot wait to introduce these people to the public. They were the most reluctant speakers. No, I'm not a good speaker. I'm not a good public speaker. I don't want to put myself in, you know, how many people do I have to speak to, you know, kind of thing. And they were always the ones that everybody wanted to have come back.
Yes.
Everybody, that was the best talk. That was the most interesting information. That I didn't even know that kind of modality existed. I would get it over and over again. The ones that are like, ooh, me, I want to talk, I want to speak. They were always the ones that were least received. And it was like, it was the weirdest pattern that I suddenly realized that it is a calling. It's not to say that people who want to get up on stage and speak can't be effective. That's not what I'm saying.
Correct.
But I think the ones that are called tend to be the ones that at first are not aware of what they're called for. They're not aware of their own glory. They're not aware of their own gifts. They're not, and that is, I have to say this because it's just true. And I don't want it to sound egoic, but that has been the mark of my life, my whole life. When I used to get up there, I would, you know, jump in the water and I would win every time. I had more medals and then I would get out and I would disappear and they couldn't find me because I was just off to the next thing. I wasn't doing it for the glory. I wasn't doing it for prestige. I wasn't doing it to be the best. I was doing it because I loved it.
Correct.
And I was good at it. And that was what was expected of me. But then I was ready to just, you know, go do something else. And so I really think that that is the mark of all of us if we're in the lane that's being chosen for us, as opposed to the one where we're like, oh, I want to be the expert in that field. I want to be the best in that way. Like that's what competition, what we don't understand is competition tends to ruin our ability to be in our zone of genius a lot of times because, you know, people will compete to be the best in something they're not even being called to be at times because either their big brother did well at that and they want to prove themselves, or their father was like, their father was a great doctor and they're like, I want to be a better doctor or whatever. It's competition tends to spur us on to gravitate towards the things that we want to prove our value and our validation, instead of just simply doing what we love, honing what comes naturally, and being called to that natural place that is our zone of genius, and that we can almost accidentally deliver. Like, I didn't even know I said something profound. I didn't even know that what I'm doing was valuable to people. I mean, I believe that's what we're supposed to have happen.
Correct.
We're not supposed to be uberly aware of how great we are. We're supposed to know enough about our value to be able to put it out there. And to be honest, that's the reason I'm doing this, is to say, okay, I do know that I have a gift for writing. And if what these people are telling me could be beneficial and that could be valuable to what people are looking for, I want to give that. Like if somebody came to me in a hurricane situation and they're like, your house is still standing, you have the only running water in the area, and your garden is still full, will you take in people and help house them and feed them? I'm like, of course.
Yes.
Right. And I think that's the piece is we're almost being asked not to squander our gifts. And that's why we allow ourselves to come forward, not for validation, not to prove, not to be the expert, because guess what? We're already the expert at the things that we were gifted. We're already the expert. We already have that. We don't have to prove that. And again, I'm talking out loud because there's so much of that I teach. And I think for so long, I haven't really allowed myself to be in it too. So this is actually a big moment for me. It's like my
Hey,
coming out party
I,
online.
guess what? Guess what? You know what I am feeling here. I am feeling some like an aha moment, all right? You told Eureka. It's I'm hearing you talk. It something you said just now, allowing a person to be themselves. One, two, competition. What hit me was you your natural abilities when you operating in it and someone comments that comments negatively comments, I would say their comments is like water of the duck's back, right? Because you know you're called for it. You're called to do it. You have nothing else that that you would rather be doing but helping others to come into your house to feed them and to clothe and shelter, right? You are you are doing what comes naturally for you. And if there's a commentary on it, so what, right? Compared to the faker, the person who's competing because dad is a doctor in XYZ, and someone says, man, you're not good at this. I'm you mean I'm not good? Unlike if you are doing it because you love to do it, somebody comes to you like, man, you just don't know. I got so many different ways to do this, and you become so creative. Here's another thing I'm getting here, right? Your and when I say here's another thing I'm getting, you understand, right? your your you're about to walk into ways that you oh gosh, wow. You're about to walk into, you know, you know how what's his name with the peanut? It was G- George Washington.
Oh, Charles Schultz.
No, George Washington, the slave that got so many different ways to divvy up the peanut. I think it was
Oh, I
George.
don't know about I don't know about him.
Yeah, George Washington Carver.
Carver. George
I think
Washington Carver. I
that
know
was
about
him.
him. I didn't know about the peanut.
So I may be getting things wrong here, but anyway, like this guy goes into his lab and he says he want to do great stuff, and the Holy Spirit tells him, man, just work on the peanut, and he was able to get oil and crayons and all these different things from the peanut, right? This is you walking into Traci. You're going to divvy up helping people, right? To uncover themselves and let them springboard into greater, right? You're going to divvy up this thing in books, in movies, in lectures, in here's the other thing that's oh wow. These online programs, webinars, etc., right? These things are about to unfold, and you're about to open up these different platforms. These different platforms are about to be opened up to you, right? And it's based on material you already have, things that you're already doing, right? Oh my goodness, this is an exciting time for you. This I'm telling you, this is an exciting time for you. Get ready, get ready, get ready. And this is I've been led to talk to just people who are watching this. Everything that we're saying here, we don't plan it. It's unscripted. And there you go, Traci's getting her aha moments and everything unfolding. She's getting vulnerable here on Facebook Live, and we'll share it on YouTube. Um, you and teaching about your purpose and all these things that you have in you. You have these things in you. Your failures are not periods; they are commas. There are commas, right? They are opening you up to greater. Here it is, Traci. Traci is doing the authoring and the pitching and seeing the lines in her face, but so what? So what? Because you know what? The end goal is going to uncover so much for people who are looking for this solution that they wouldn't even see your face. You know what they will see? They will see your gift. They will receive your gifts and not your face. And some of us so think that it's about our face and how we look and the muscle and some fashion, modeling, etc. But it's so not about. It's about the substance. The substance that's you, that makes you up, Traci, and that makes me up, Wulwyn, and that makes you up, whomever is listening or watching. Ah, whew.
Ooh, I appreciate you holding that space for me, my friend. You know, it's like you holding that excitement. It's interesting because you're so right. What I've been experiencing is people coming to me and saying, "Hey, you do this really well. I'm doing this. I think what I'm visioning is this piece where these two puzzle pieces come together. You know, would you be interested in partnering up?" And there's just so much of that where it's not creating a new, it's just figuring out how we want, do we want what platform? That's what we get to figure out, not how are we going to make this thing happen. We're already doing it. We're just, again, together we are better concept, which my friend Barbara Hempel talks about all the time, is that's the piece that I'm finding because, and you know how I've been putting one foot in the front of the other is asking myself, does this experience feel right to me? Not, how am I going to do this? Will people want it? Is this a good idea? None of that. Will this make money? It's all, does this feel like an experience? Is this a person that I'm feeling I want to work with? Is this an experience that gets me, like you talked about having butterflies. I get so excited to come and talk to you, and what is that? That's resonance. That's a yes, that's a heck yes. And that's how we know, that's how our body tells us, if something is like, or if we're not sure, if we're too much in our heads, the situation will develop in such a way that it'll prohibit us from doing that if it's not something that is in resonance, right? Like we're trying to have those meetings and they keep getting, something happens. And it's like, okay, but I kind of felt that. So I'm going to just acknowledge that. I'm going to acknowledge that I kind of had the signs and signals, and the fact that that went away, either that relationship went away, or that client went away, or that situation went away. It wasn't meant to be. And I felt that. I actually felt that. I just was so in my head. I was kind of overriding it.
Wow.
And I've been in my head so much. I love telling the story. One of my most humbling moments was a number of years ago when I was doing a talk, and a gentleman approached me beforehand, and he says, I'm looking for a leadership coach in my life, and I've done my research, and I'm really impressed with you, and I've talked to people who've worked with you. I really am thinking I would like to possibly hire you, but can we talk after your presentation? I'm like, absolutely. And afterwards he approached me with his hand and a business card, and he says, I've chosen not to work with you.
Wow.
But I can talk. And I'm like,
Wow.
after my bit of a field day with that experience, who does he think I remember thinking, well, Traci, you can sit in your self-righteousness, or you could look at this as a possible breakthrough, because this man might have something important to tell you. And when I sat down with him, you know what he said to me? He said, the reason I don't want to work with you is you're too perfect. And that doesn't exist. You're not approachable and you're not real. He said, your entire presentation was perfect. You look perfect. Your Q&A was perfect. Everything was perfect. That doesn't exist. What are you hiding from, lady?
Wow.
And I was just like, those moments where, third eye, like somebody shoots you with an arrow, like that's exactly how I felt. Like, because I knew that there was a mark of complete truth in what he was saying. I just didn't know how.
Wow.
And so I had to really sit with that, and I had to go in, and I remember telling my husband, coming home, and he's like, so did you convince him to work with you? I'm like, not really how the conversation went. And he says, well, what happened? I said, I told him, and he's like, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, I guess I need to go on a vulnerability journey, a heart opening journey. I need to get to know myself better and let myself show up more, let me show up more, instead of what I think I'm supposed to be looking like, acting like, being like, and so I did. And I have gone through, I've invested time, money in coaches and programs and in books, in time alone, in all of this to answer those questions for myself. And so it's really powerful for me to be in this place now, because most of my clients now, I tell them that story and they're just like, I don't get that from you at all.
Yep.
I'm like, that's because that man came to you. You might not be working with me today
Yep.
if he hadn't, right, come in and set me straight.
Yes.
And I call him an earth angel. You know, you get those people in your life, and so, and I've never seen him since. But it's a real powerful thing now for me to be sitting here and finding that you keep saying next level, and I know you're right.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all being called to our next level. I mean, individually and collectively, this just happens to be mine.
Correct.
Right? What we're talking about right now is my journey,
Correct.
you know, and what's coming up for me. But each one of us, you know, anybody who's listening to this, you are all being called, right? You are being called to your next level too, whatever that might be. And the fear we feel is real, and the confusion we feel is real, and the uncertainty we feel is real. And it also allows all of those parts of us that have been blocking us from being that to come to the surface. It instigates. So, you know, it instigates those sleeping lions that are the part of ourselves that, no, you can't do that. No, you know, it's the ego basically. And that's going to come up too. And if we're too scared of our own shadow, if we're too scared of our own blocks, or we're too scared of those things within us, we're not gonna come to a place of integration with them. I mean, it's just so beautiful, but I feel it. Like I can feel it on multiple levels right now as we're talking about it. It's just like, oh yeah, take a deep breath. And just as I said to that, you know, in that situation where it's like, I'm going on a opening up journey. I have no clue what that means. I have no clue what that is going to look like, but I'm saying yes to it and I'm committing to that, whatever it may be. And it has been a wild ride, but I'll tell you, it really got me to a place. I am a different human being because of that one man.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. 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 Traci, I tell you, do you know that we are at 2:00?
We do this every time, right?
We are at 2:00, and what I want to do is just go over some of the comments. I think speak truth, right? You're good at encouraging, motivating others. Good stuff, Traci. It keeps going on and on. So had we stopped, had we not done this, we wouldn't have had these reactions. Had we not jumped off the cliff, we didn't know how to connect Zoom to live. And Kimberly Winborn comes in and say, hey, you just got to press that button. Oh, that's what we do? Great, that's what we do. Today, the 3 times we had to restart. Hey, you got to do it. You got to restart, right? I am so grateful to be talking with you in terms of what I observed today, right? I observed I observed a spiritual loosening up, an eternal loosening up of a lioness, right? That's in there. That's going to, as you say, own space and just take over space, right? And it's not taking over space. It's not conquering. It's not putting someone under you. It's you taking space so that you can have dominion and nurture that space, so that the seeds that you're putting in that garden will grow and flourish to be trees that would give shade to others. The way I said it, that was
wow.
Wow, man.
I'm glad we got that on recording.
I know, but no, really, that's what's happening in you, and that's what's happening in us. Traci, we coming into to the close of this one, and I'm amazed at how it goes.
I'm always amazed. And I just want to say thank you for holding space for me. And I also want to say to our listenership and our followship, thank you for holding space for me. I appreciate it a lot.
Yes, yes. Woo! Goodbye, live stream. Take care until
Thank you.
2 weeks from now.